So former MP Jolyan Silvera kills his wife, tries to cover it up, gets caught, is charged with murder. Then just as the murder trial is about to start, he pleads guilty to manslaughter. Lots of people are upset. Lots of people have questions. Let's take a closer look, all right? I'm Dion Jackson Miller. Thank you so much for joining me courtside. Time for tea. So there are a couple of things I want to look at, and there's so much to talk about. It's probably going to be a series of videos. So let's look at what we thought happened, what he said happened, the case being tried in secret, this controversial manslaughter deal, and the sentencing process. All right. So going back a little bit for the start, how much I want to remember the wedding of Jolyan Silvera and Melissa Silvera that happened in 2015, December 12, 2015 to be exact. No, I don't really follow that kind of thing, whole heap, but I went back and looked at it and it looked like it was a gorgeous wedding. The Jamaica Observer reported on it. You can go back and look at the story. Beautiful gown, beautiful cake, gorgeous reception, of course, beautiful bride, besotted groom. They look so much in love. All the tapanaris did there, you know, big wedding. So yeah, it looked like a beautiful, beautiful day. Then now, 2017, tragedy. The couple's 2-year-old son found drowned in the pool at their house. Silvera had been home with the child, and look, I can't even imagine the tragedy. How gut-wrenching that must have been for the family, the pain they went through. That's the kind of thing that can tear a family apart, can certainly tear a couple apart. And we're now hearing that that played a big, big role in the killing of Melissa Silvera. Then, more tragedy for the family. November 10, 2023, we hear that Melissa Silvera had died, and she was just 42 years old at the time. Now, when the news broke, as you can imagine, or maybe if you remember, whole heap of grief, outpouring of support for her family and, of course, her poor husband. Because, you know, we had been told she died in her sleep. Everybody was, expressing support for the family, support for him. All the big wigs them in politics were coming out and speaking about, just how sorry they were to hear. It's a tragic, tragic story. No muss. Here's a young woman with young children. So it's a tragedy anyway you take it. But guess what? We were taking it wrong. Because we never known no better at the time. Because then we heard, hold on, story about her dying in her sleep. Not really saw it go, because bullet fragments had been found in her body during a post-mortem examination. All of a sudden, bam, we're looking at a murder investigation now. And everybody was talking because all kinds of shocking details started to come out. The Gleaner, for instance, reported that a policeman had gone to the scene by himself. They quoted a senior police officer saying the policeman made a huge blunder going there by himself and not properly inspecting the body of the deceased. The Gleaner also said, though, the officer was uneasy and called for the post-mortem examination. A family friend told the Gleaner the death was suspicious from the start. She was healthy. She was out with them just days before, eating and drinking. This was a total shocker, the friend said, and from the get-go, they said their initial thought was something right. So, we have a murder investigation. Young woman found at home, dead. Come on, the whole way we watch Law and Order, the whole way we watch CSI. You don't have to be lawyer, you don't have to be police to know that one of the first suspects is going to be the spouse, is going to be the husband. But his lawyer, Peter Champagne, King's Counsel, said in December 2023 that Silvera was not a suspect. All right, counsel. Move from there now to Melissa Silvera's funeral. This was January 12, 2024, and Silvera put on one piece of bawling and grieving. He also did this touching, beautiful tribute to Melissa that his mother read. And just to remind you of what she said at the time, well, what she said, he said, her story, woven into the fabric of our family, unfolded with grace, determination, and a brilliance that illuminated every corner of our lives. As a wife, as a mother, Melissa's dedication was unparalleled. She approached her duties with an unwavering commitment from the smallest milestones to significant life events. She stood by our sons, he wrote, with a radiance of pride and joy. He said, as we navigate the void left by your absence, your physical absence, I am committed, he said, to carrying forward the flame of your love, ensuring that your legacy flourishes in the hearts of our sons and the countless lives you've touched. Wow. When you know what we know now and you look back on that, it's like, wow, what was going on there, so, you know? So look at the picture. What a piece of balling, man. Watch this. Clearly, anybody would have looked on this and said, this is a man overcome with grief because of the tragic death of his wife. Except just a week after the funeral, he was picked up by police and charged with murdering his wife. All right, so let's fill in the gaps now with what we've been told happened, thanks to a statement that came out from the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions. So this is the information they said they had on file based on, the statements that were collected and so on. Sometime after 10:30 p.m. on the 10th of November 2023, Jolyan Silvera told his wife and children he was leaving to go to a meeting, say he would come back the next day. Mrs. Silvera told him he couldn't leave, and there was an argument. This came from the statement of two of the children. The adults swore at each other, then he left. Sometime before 6 a.m. on the 11th day of November 2023, one of the children, who was 10 years of age at the time, went into his parents' bedroom and discovered his mother's lifeless body on the floor next to the bed. He saw blood coming from her orifices and her dress covered with blood. He ran from the bedroom and alerted his brother, who went back with him to the parents' bedroom. They both checked for signs of life from the body. They tried to make contact with their father using the messaging kid application on their digital device, and they were eventually successful. Pause for a moment here, because a couple of things here. First of all, this is a very kind of sterile forensic account of what happened, and I know if you have any kind of imagination at all, you can imagine what happened, and it is just heartbreaking to think about it. This little boy, because 10 years old, is still a little boy going to go wake up his mother and instead finds her body with blood, goes for his brother, and the two of them know, because when you're hearing checking for signs of life, think of children finding their mother's body. You can imagine them try wake her up. That's what they're trying to do. Them try wake her up. They're trying to figure out if she's alive. Them probably shake her, mommy, them probably calling. I mean, you can just use your imagination and fill in the blanks here. Then now they're trying to get their father, and initially they can't get him, right? Because we're told they were eventually successful. So imagine now, because this man has shot her, left her there. The children are now trying to reach him and then can't even reach him at first. Eventually successful. Eventually they get him. So on the one hand, you just have the human tragedy of this. Honestly, it just breaks my heart thinking about what those children went through that morning. Then now you have the other side of it, because pause for a moment. Remember, the children are saying when they found her, she had blood on her, blood was coming from her orifices, her dress was covered with blood, which means that anybody who comes and sees that knows there's something wrong. So the police came to the house and never see that. So the question is, what happened to the body between the time the children found her and the time the police got to the house? I have to stop and say one more thing. When you hear something or you see something and you will never, ever forget. I will never, as long as I live, forget that this man, by his own admission now, shot his wife, left her there, either dying or dead. Don't know what the situation was. I don't know if he knew. But he left her there, took off, leaving her body in that house with their children, their young children, knowing that they would be the ones to find their mother in that condition. I will never, as long as I live, forget that as a parent and just as a human being. Heartbreaking is not even the word. So my words that are in my mind when I think about that, I can't even say them. Because in this whole story, there are two things that stand out for me. All the controversy about the manslaughter plea, we're going to come to all of that. We're going to come to provocation, what it is. We're going to come to all of them, lost something there, right? But there are two things about this story. One, intimate partner violence. Another Jamaican woman killed by her intimate partner. And number two, the man left the woman there dead for him picking them, for his children to find their mother in that condition. That I will never forget. But okay, back to what we know from the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions now. They said Silvera indicated in a witness statement that he called the Stony Hill police station while on his way home after he had spoken to his son. On arrival at the house, he went to the bedroom based on statements from the children and saw his wife in a sitting position with her head leaning forward at the side of the bed. He touched her. He spoke to her. He found she was not responding. Sometime after that, the first responder, who was an officer of the Stony Hill police station, got to the house, going to the bedroom, saw the body, took a photograph with his cell phone, and Mr. Silvera cried out. And again, knowing what we know now, you must say, I wonder what was in his mind. Anyway, he had Mr. Silvera cover the nude section of the body. The first responder did not further examine the body as Mr. Silvera was still crying. And I have to tell you, that shocked me, because me know say I know so then train in my police school, right? And I have to ask the question, I'll leave it for you to answer. Do you think that is what would have happened if the police responded to a situation in a downtown home? In a home where the people were not highbrow and have money and were people prominent in society, would this be what played out? Back to what the DPP's office said. They said the first responded as a policeman after learning from Silvera that Mrs. Silvera had no known medical condition, said a post-mortem exam would have to be done. So he called the funeral home to get the body. He left, and we can only imagine what happened after he left that room. The morgue attendant got to the house, the body was removed and taken to the morgue. A post-mortem exam was scheduled to take place on the 1st of December 2023. On that date, the pathologist found scars on the body. The post-mortem now was carried out on the 15th of December 2023. The pathologist noted that there were 3 gunshot wounds, one to the front of the right thigh, one to the left side of the lower abdomen, and the third a superficial penetrating gunshot wound to the right side of the lower abdomen. The pathologist removed 2 projectiles from her body, which were handed over to the police. The pathologist said the immediate cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds. The detectives and the first responder returned to the home the 16th of December 2023. So that's a day after the post-mortem, but more than a month after she died. When they got to the bedroom, they saw the floor was tiled, the furniture sprayed over, mattress replaced with a new one, walls painted, children's room tiled. Silvera said nobody never tell him, saying couldn't change up the room. They took his phone, they took his firearms, for which he had a license, for examination and testing. The projectiles removed from the body of Mrs. Silvera were compared to test fires that had been taken by Silvera's gun by the ballistics expert. The expert saw level 1 matching and some amount of level 2 matching. As a result of his findings, he contacted FLA and asked for the test fires that they had from his Glock pistol, which were taken in 2013. A comparison was done between the test fires from the FLA and the projectiles from the body of Melissa Silvera, and they matched. That is, the projectiles that came from her body had been fired from Silvera's Glock pistol. The ballistics expert said there was corrosion to the barrel of the firearm. The firearm had been inspected by the Firearm Licensing Authority on the 29th of September 2023. There were no signs of tampering. After the ballistics exam, Silvera was arrested and charged for the offenses of using a firearm to commit a felony, that's murder, and he was also charged with murder. So what did he say happened? We're going to take a closer look in the next video, and this is going to be a series of videos. As I said, we're going to be looking at all the different issues coming out of the case, so you can look out for a playlist I'll be creating just for that, Jolyan Silvera playlist. So what do you think? As always, want to hear from you. Comment below, keep it civil. Like the video, share it with somebody who might be interested, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you know anytime I drop a new video. Thank you so much for joining me courtside. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. Time for tea.